This is my first drawing, and to make sense out of all this gobbledygook I got on here, I made this cut down pattern here. I'm going to cut this center out here. It's 3.5 inches across. This whole thing from here to here is 10 inches, and from here to here is 6 inches. So that's going to be my pattern. These two spots here and here are where the all thread bolts that will create the clamp mechanism for this, because what I'm going to do is split this down the middle. Okay, I just got done cutting 4 pieces of nice plywood, 6 inches by 10 inches, and that is going to make up the cradle of my router lift. I've got the center cut out. I've got my rod, the adjustment rod hole put in the cradle. I cut the cradle down to from 6 inches this way to 8 inches this way. It didn't need to be the full 10 inches. So I also have holes drilled through these pieces here that will bolt this together when it's around the router. I need to sand this interior yet, and the outside for that matter. There's the first test fitting there. Okay, the idea for this router lift came from 2 pieces of information. This diameter, which is the diameter of my router without its holder, just the head, and then how many pieces of plywood I glued together, because I wanted a pretty beefy cradle or holder clamping mechanism, so that when all this is glued up and I pulled it together with these bolts, it made a very significant carriage. And with this 1/2 inch rod right here to drive it up and down, I wanted a place where I could get enough adjustment out of it so that I could raise the bit clear up to be able to change the bit and to be able to put it below the table when I'm not using it. What you see here is I embedded a square nut on the bottom of the carriage. This is what lifts the carriage up and down. Okay, I wanted to give you a close-up. This is the router carriage. This is just a simple board attached to the carriage for the slide. Now, this is the part of the lift that is stationary. You can see I just took a plain board, 2 boards here, one on each side for the slide to go in, and then these are the clamping boards here and here. And they, like I said before, they've been designed to put pressure on this board so that there's no slop in here, but just enough clearance to let it slide up and down. No racking, none of this weight. They're tight in all directions. Okay, one thing I did was I took a saw blade out of this piece right here and put a little indentation so that I can tighten up on the slide a little bit. But the one thing I had to do was to get the right situation here is I had to build it back out with a couple layers of masking tape, just so that I could get the slide tight enough so that there's no play in it. I did to both sides like that. You can see the little saw blade mark right there. It's just a few thousandths. I wanted to take the slop out of the slide because there might be a few differences between this piece of plywood and this piece of plywood. There's a few thousandths of a difference. So just to take the slop out of the back and forth this way, that's how I tightened it. What I've had for quite some time is this Kreg router plate. And it's just a universal mounted plate that Kreg sells. And I'm starting to modify it to be able to fit a socket down through here, that rod, so that I can raise and lower the lift that I'm making through that hole there. Now the other thing I wanted to show you was the rod. This is where I put the socket on right here. The rod goes down. There's that nut that's underneath, under there, comes down through, and it spins on top of this washer. And there's going to be a little retainer washer and cotter pin right here. Well, that's my new router lift. Thanks for watching. Have a great evening. Bye now.